Hey guys, welcome back to Investor Yoda. Why rent for $2,200 a month when you can have a mortgage of $1,300 a month? Well, it's not as easy as it sounds. Let me explain. So let's assume we buy a house for $400,000 for this example, and it has a fixed interest rate of 3% for 30 years, which means the mortgage is going to be $1,300 a month. Now, on the other hand, just across the street, you can rent an apartment for $2,200 a month. Well, in this case, the mortgage is definitely lower than the apartment rent. Well, you have to account for other factors like property tax, maintenance cost, and opportunity cost. So let me explain in detail each of them. So $1,300 a month is just your mortgage payment every month. On top of that, you might have a plumbing issue, or you might have roof removal, or you might have an electrical appliance issue or an electrical wiring issue which you will have to take care of. On the other hand, in an apartment, all these costs are already added into your apartment rent of $2,200. So property tax, let's say the property tax is close to 1%, which is the average right now in US. That will be another $333 a month on top of your $1,300 a month. And when we talk about maintenance cost, I know every month you're not going to have a maintenance cost, but assuming we take an average, we can bring it down to $350 a month of maintenance cost, which is basically for your roof replacements in 10 years to 20 years and your kitchen appliance or your cooking appliance replacement in 10 years or your electric wirings that needs to be replaced in 20 years. So again, $350 a month for your maintenance cost, which is added in as average. Then you have the third kind, which is the opportunity cost. For your $400,000 apartment, you'll have to put 20% down to avoid PMI. We'll talk about PMI later in this video. So 20% of $400,000 is $80,000. So that $80,000, if you had invested in a stock market, which would give you an average of 8 to 10% in an index fund, is you lost that opportunity when you invested that $80,000 into a house. I know a lot of people now would be saying that $80,000 is going to get appreciation as the house appreciates 4% annually average. But you just need to go back to the 2008 recession, which shows that the house always doesn't appreciate. The real estate market can come down. And again, you are not buying this house as an investment opportunity, but you are buying this house for you to live, which means that as soon as the property goes up 4% to 20%, you're not going to sell that property. Most of the people are going to keep living in that house, as that is the house where you're going to raise up your family. That is the house where you want to have some memories. So most people are not selling their house. So you are not getting any return on that house as of yet, unless you sell the house. So we got to add that opportunity cost, which was missed, into the mortgage payments. So that is going to be another $333 a month, which is $4,000 a year, which would be your return if you had invested $80,000 in a stock market. So this is something interesting. In your initial mortgage payments, most of that amount is going towards your bank, which is going to pay for your interest towards the bank, and a very small quantity goes into your principal amount on your house. Now, in your later years, towards the end of your mortgage payments is when you really start paying towards the principal of your house. So this means that you're paying most of your initial payments for the interest towards the bank. Now, in the initial years, you can get a lot more tax deductions since you're paying most of the money as interest to the bank. So for this example, let's take an average of $200 a month, which you're going to be getting as tax deductions from your mortgage. So that makes up all your mortgage payments to a total of $2,116, and your rent to a total of $2,200. Now, in this case, definitely the mortgage is a little cheaper than the rent, but what if the rent was $2,000 or even less than that, right? And again, this is not a fixed amount. It can vary based on different locations and different regions. But the big advantage of renting is that you can go to a place, you can see that location, you can realize, or you can see if you like that area and that location, and do you want to live there for a long period of time. This is where I take into account the 10-year plan, where if you're buying a house, you should be thinking of at least living there for a long term. If you're going to be living there for only 6 months, there is no point of investing all this money and living there for 6 months and again making a move, which is going to be a lot tedious and a lot more hassle than renting an apartment where you can just pick up your bag and move to another location, and you don't have any other costs associated with it. Also, another important factor to consider is, can you really afford to buy a home versus renting a home? So in order to own a home, you need to have savings, you need to have 20% down payment, you need to have a very low debt to income ratio, you need to have a good credit score, and you got to have investment cash. So let me break this down. So coming to savings. When I talk about savings, the most important part of owning a home, you need to have some kind of savings. Now, today, in America, 70% of Americans don't have $1,000 in their savings account. And 65% of Americans own homes and 35% rent. So what does that mean? That means that 1 out of 2 Americans can't afford to pay for an emergency once they have a home. Let's say they have an electrical expense, or let's say they have a plumbing expense. They don't have $1,000 saved in their account to spend for that expense. You need to make sure you have significant amount of savings before you can afford a home. Now coming to the second part, which is down payment. Now most of the banks would be ready to give you a loan even though you can't afford a home. Let me explain what that means. So today, first time home buyers can buy a home for just 5% of down payment. What does that mean? So there is something called as PMI, or private mortgage insurance, which you will have to pay for, which is actually an insurance for the bank, stating that the bank is worried if you are not able to pay the entire amount for your loan, the insurance is going to kick in and pay for that amount, which indirectly the bank is telling, I am not sure if this person can afford a home, but I am willing to give him loan if he pays for my mortgage insurance. So you always need to make sure you have at least 20% down payment before you buy a home. And when it comes to debt to income ratio, a lot of people go buy a home even before they pay off their credit card debts. Your credit card debts are skinning you alive. The interest rate is so bad that you might as well pay your credit card debt even before you think about investing or any of the other investments you want to make. Now, once you have paid off your credit card debts and you have a very low student loan or very low auto loan, that's when you need to think about if you can buy a home. And then, of course, credit score. Now, if you have a really bad credit score, you might be paying twice the interest rate for the same amount versus a person who has a really good credit score. So make sure you have a credit score of above 700, and that's going to make a big difference in your interest rate that you're going to get when you apply for a loan with the bank. And the last part of this is investment cash. Well, a lot of people think buying a home, that's like your biggest investment. It is a big investment, but you shouldn't put all your money into buying a home, and each time you get a paycheck, you're going to renovate the lights in your home, you're going to renovate the sitting room in your home. You got to realize that all this investment that you put into your house is only going to pay off when you sell the home. And as I told you earlier, most people are not going to sell their home. They are going to keep it, and they're going to sell it if they are really in need of cash, at which point we don't know if the real estate is going to be going higher or if it's going to be a bad time to sell. Well, the 2008 recession has shown that every time the housing market doesn't go up. So you need to think about that. It will be a better option if you invest in an investment property. That way, so you're getting some kind of passive income. Well, here is my 2 cents on this whole topic. My 2 cents is that if you can really afford a home, and if you feel this is the right time, if you want to buy a home, you should go for it. But before that, make sure you have a good savings cushion. Make sure you have a 20% down payment. Make sure you have your debt to income ratio really low. Make sure your credit score is really good, and make sure you're not putting all your investment cash into this home unless you are treating it as an investment property. On the other hand, it might be a good option to rent for now until you can afford to buy a home with all these 5 criteria. Please hit the like button and smash the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. Thank you. Bye bye.